morning.
Oh,
Good morning, Jay Moore.
sharply dressed, Mr.
I was
Moore.
get a little water.
Yeah, you look like you worked out this morning, have
Yeah.
you?
Just got done, cleaned up, got shaved for you guys. Just getting ready to head.
Cleaned up is an understatement. I mean, that is quite the number, Mr. Moore. I mean, you're looking nice and dandy for this very highly professional and super serious interview.
It is. Yeah, I this is most important task of my day today is this interview with you guys this morning.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I want to make you the general manager of Nebraska football, and I've just given you $1 million that you can spend on one position out of the portal. What position are you spending $1 million on?
Are we talking like current situation or just like
Yeah, let's talk current situation. So we remove the quarterback out of the equation.
Yeah, that'd be initially where I'd go if we were saying in general. But I think right now, and just other conversations that I've had with other people in these positions, there's one of two places, and I think it just equates to the NFL, who's kind of getting paid the most money, and that's either an elite edge rusher or a left tackle.
Yep.
And Nebraska's kind of in that position. They kind of got, the Newari kid from Missouri. He's still pretty young, and I know he didn't play a lot at Missouri this last year, but Nebraska's in a position to get a pretty good left tackle. I think that kind of completes this transfer portal cycle for now. I think that's just kind of the missing piece. You've got some good other pieces, but I would think a left tackle, and that's what they're going for. That's what they're getting $1 million plus. The good ones are. So that's where, if I had $1 million, that's where I'm spending it right now, is at the tackle position.
Jay, we'll keep playing the hypotheticals here. You're no longer the general manager. Now you're a defensive line coach. Okay. Let's remove Nebraska. This isn't a Nebraska-specific question. This is just a defensive line ideology question. You got two guys in the portal. You have one guy, younger dude, highly rated prospect coming out of high school, okay, but hasn't played a lot of college football. You got your second guy, not highly rated out of high school, not the guy with the measurables, but has played a lot of football at a non-Power 5 program. Who are you taking? Are you taking the highly rated, highly talented high school player with not a lot of experience? Or are you taking the not as talented but producing non-Power 5 guy?
Yeah, that's a good question. How much time do I get? 1 year with that guy who's been at other schools?
I'll give you 4 years for the young guy. I'll give you 2 years for the older guy.
As of right now, I think in their current situation, and where until the parameters of college football gets cleaned up and there's some structure to it, I think every year it's just going to be a year-by-year basis. And I think I go with the guy who has more street cred.
Why is that?
What's that?
Why is that? Why?
I think in the parameters now is it's every year is going to be so vastly different.
Sure.
And I think you got to capitalize now. I hope it gets back to, and I think it will. I just don't know when. You still got to be able to build rosters and build teams and build foundations. But right now it's so hard to do because guys are here for a year leaving because they're getting offered more money and there's no structure to it. So I think I want to go get a guy who's proven, even at a lower level, because it's different. I've been there coming in as a high school recruit, and you step on foot on campus. And I'm not saying I wasn't like a 5-star by any means, but it took me a couple of years just to get comfortable. And I don't know, in today's day and age, there's enough time to – now you're going to have those guys in your program, but I think you got to – this Nebraska, we need to start winning and getting back to that level. So I'm going to go take right now, with the craziness of the wild west of college football, I'm going to go get that guy who has been a little more proven, has been seasoned, even though it might be at a Sun Belt team or a MAC team, something like that. But he's shown it on film against other teams, and maybe he's shown it against other Power 4 or 5 conference teams as well. Mm-hmm. teams play those type of rosters and teams as well. So I would say I'm leaning that way. But if it says now, if things get cleaned up, I think I would move back to getting a younger guy that you're going to sign him to a 3-year deal. I mean, that's just what we got to get back into. But now that's not there. So I want to get a guy that can help us win now and not maybe be not a risk, but a little bit more of a project. So
Sure.
That's right. That's kind of where I lean.
All right, Jay Moore, who last night, along with DB and Michael and Vers on Big Red Wrap Up, one of the things you guys just talked about that I think, like, I don't know if Rule will ever pull back the curtain of the month of December leading up to the Pinstripe Bowl, but they were having meetings with players telling them if they were going to be inside of the 105 or outside of the 105. You had guys in the portal. You had coaches that were leaving. You had analysts that were working on field. You had one position where the position coach is not even here. All of a sudden, you get these guys that committed to Nebraska earlier in the month. They're working out with you for the Pinstripe Bowl. There was a lot of moving parts, but it appeared that the chemistry was pretty tight. You guys talked about that last night. Why do you think that was the case? Because it was kind of chaotic in the month of December leading up to a Saturday in the Bronx.
Yeah, I think Nebraska, and I think I talked about it multiple times last night, why I feel so strongly about the projections of Nebraska right now is I think the culture is really, really good.
Yeah.
And you can look at it with, I think Coach Rule brought that in with how the relationships he's built with the players. And I think he loves them, but also kicks them in the rear end when they need to. But I think the kids appreciate that. They don't take offense to it because they know he truly cares. And I think you look at a guy like Ramir, you look at Ty and Nash, and I mentioned Heinrich Harburg, who these are guys who easily Ramir could have left, transferred. He could have said what he was dealing with his mom, but it was important to him to represent the University of Nebraska. Those conversations don't happen anymore with young men in universities when things go through that. When he goes through those things, Ty and Nash did not have to play. They could easily sat out and said, "We're good. We're going to start training for the NFL Combine, and we're going to protect ourselves." Heinrich easily could have gone to the transfer portal, says, "Hey, I'm a quarterback. I want to go play somewhere else." But he's changing positions because he wants to be at Nebraska. I think the getting back to playing for the university and putting that as the most important is something that's been missing. And just in today's day and age, I don't know if we'll ever get back there, but Nebraska seems to have a little bit of that. And if you can take that, if you're younger players, Keona Davis and Riley Van Poppel, it's like, man, you just do what Ty and Nash did, you're going to be just fine. I mean, there's perfect examples of how to operate day to day and handle your business. Do that. Your running back room, look at what Ramir's done. So I think I think that's important. That's why I feel like things are in a really good spot. And I think when you're all kind of invested in pedaling the bike in the same direction, you can handle the distractions. You can handle a little bit more chaos. You can handle the uncertainties because we're working towards the same goal. Everyone's on the same page. No matter if someone's here, gone, left, came back, whatever it is. Like, man, it's all good. Like we're all on the same page. We're being told things are being communicated the right way. There's no hidden agendas. There's no hidden messages. So I think that's just culturally why you're able to handle that and go win a bowl game during all the chaos. Where they're at is really good.
Jay, I love the conversation about culture because I think that, there have been plenty shortcomings with Matt Rule in his tenure here in first 2 years, but the culture has not. The culture has been probably the thing that he can hang his hat on the most. I want to ask you about this, though. The staff that he brought in was really, it was about setting a culture. He hired the guys he hired mainly because they had been there before with him. They had been in the trenches with him before. Some of them had been coached by him before. And so he brought those guys in mind. All right, we're going to set this culture. We're going to make this program the way it was at Temple and Baylor. And I need my guys who've done it before with me to do it here in Nebraska. Now we're at a point, though, where a lot of those dudes are gone, and that there are new coaches who weren't a part of that culture setting. Is that a concern for the culture? The fact that a lot of the position coaches who were here to set that have now moved on?
No, because I think initially that foundation has been laid. And
Yeah.
let's be honest, this isn't Temple or Baylor.
Yeah, great point.
I mean, a whole different ballgame we're dealing with. Temple has how many other sports in the area that people pay attention to? If they go, people don't care if they go 9-3 or 4-8.
Yeah,
they don't. Baylor, there's how many other universities? It's just this is a different world. And you bring your guys in who you're comfortable with, you have relationships with. But I think loyalty can hurt you to a fault. And I think Coach Will's been careful with that. I think he's always going to be loyal, but I also think he's always going to have those conversations, the tough conversations with his players and his staff, because ultimately he wants to be here, and ultimately he wants to get this thing back to where it was and where it needs to be. So no, I'm not concerned whatsoever. I think he's going to do that. I mean, he's going to do the stuff that has to happen. I mean, he fired an OC middle of the season and brought him in, a different guy in who was not coaching. And that OC is still on staff.
Yeah.
It's unique, but it's unique in the fact that I think only Coach Rule could do that, because I think that's the relationship he has with the staff. I hope he keeps Ed Foley on staff to be almost like a high school coach liaison to help in the recruiting area, because I think Ed is he brought that back to the state. I know the special teams discussion is one thing, but Ed is a fantastic human being, and he's a great coach. But I think the relationships he built with the high school staff that's been missing around the state, he needs to be commended for, and he needs to be kept to kind of keep those ties together. So I think he can move those pieces around in a very healthy way. I don't think anyone left with any ill demeanor whatsoever. I just, that's just the culture, but also just the ability to have those uncomfortable conversations, but in a good way. Healthy.
Yep. Position group that has to take the biggest jump between now and a Thursday night at Arrowhead Stadium.
Quarterback.
Ooh.
In what way?
I think Dylan needs to get his body better. I think he's really good, but I think he needs to, and he'll get this. I think he'll get that. He'll do it. Needs to be more mobile. He needs to learn. He needs a fastball. We saw, he needs to be able to put a ball on the guy instead of just chucking up. So listen, he's between the ears. He's really, really good. I think he's just got to take care of his body a little better to get a little more agile, a little more explosive. You don't need to, I don't think he's going to be all of a sudden run up. He's going to be Lamar Jackson back there by any means. But if you want his twin, right, Patrick Mahomes, and like he can hurt you with your feet now and then if you're not careful. Need to lean a little bit more that way, and just needs to learn how to slide better. A lot of those things. I don't know if that's a huge aspect. But that was my first one. But always, your O-line and D-line's always got to be really good. You got to have guys step up and replace Ty and Nash. But initially, I think the quarterback room is Dylan's got to get, but he will get better. But he's got to take a jump, and that's the most important position in football. If you want an elite quarterback, you got to get some talent around him too, and I think they're working on that. But I think he's just that's just the most important position. So I think that's a jump where I think we will see from year one to year two.
We heard going into this preseason of the press conferences, like Satterfield and Rule kind of gushing over the fact that like he was checking that Dylan was able to check to different things, and he was reading defenses and making calls at the line. He's really young, and we saw some instances and where he was checking into stuff that wasn't the right stuff. Do you think, I know you're going into year two, but do you think there's a benefit to maybe having Dana take a little bit off of his plate for next year and having less of that pressure of having to make those checks at the line, with considering the fact, look, I know, He's played 12 games, but he's still a young quarterback.
Yeah.
He's still got a lot of football to be played.
Yeah, I think, maybe it's hard because if he can handle it, which I think he can. I think you can put a lot on. I think you can put a lot on Dylan's plate because I think he studies the game tremendously. He understands it. I think you'll just, like I said, getting some better weapons around him, get the offensive line, just a little better, get the run game going a little better, which we saw kind of that evolve once Dana got here. Things just looked to run a little smoother.
Yeah.
I mean, he did pare down the offense quite a bit. But I think you can put a good amount on Dylan's plate because I think he's really good between the ears. So I don't expect them to dial anything back. I think it's game by game scenario, but I think you can put a lot on Dylan's plate mentally. I think he can handle it just fine. It's just you do that to him, but is it necessary for the offense? Right, that's the biggest thing. Is it necessary to do that to Dylan? Is it necessary to have an immense playbook or a call sheet going into games? Do you need to have that?
Yeah.
And I don't think that totally is. But once you get another spring ball, an off-season training camp with these guys, who knows? It could be a pretty elaborate playbook next year.
Stop me or go ahead and flame it.
Huh.
Vincent Shavers will be what next year?
A damn good football player. I don't know if he's going to be.
Oh no,
he was cooking.
Yeah, he was doing great.
They'd paid their bill.
It's like the beginning of Independence
He sounded
Day.
Look for using his phone. He sounded great. I mean, he's got the nice setup and everything like that right there. Looking
Literally
nice and
just
dapper today.
Literally just thought to myself, man, he sounds good.
He sounded
nice
great.
and clear.
He's been sounding great today.
Do you think
maybe got an upgrade?
Do you think the question on Vincent Shavers hit Jay Moore as hard as he hits other people, and that knocked his connection off?
But
Thank you.
That's a good one. Vincent Shavers. Let me talk about it. Talk about freshman. He hits people.
We're back.
Levels guys.
Yeah.
Jay.
Jay, that was a great answer. Thank you.
On my phone, for some reason, I get kicked off. We'll get it figured out. I think he's gonna be really good. I mean, we saw him play a little bit this year, but obviously the plays he made in the Pinstripe Bowl, a lot of splash plays, very fast, physical, violent. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not ready to say he's gonna be an all Big Ten type of guy next year, but he's gonna be really good. He's gonna be really, really good, and I can't wait to watch him. Just some of those younger guys, some of these Florida guys just evolve. Him, McGahee. I think they're gonna get better this offseason, and then the sky is the ceiling for them. I mean, they can be really, really good, but they got to do the right things still. They got to do the necessary things. It can't be a one game, I went out and balled out and I'm good. No, it's got to be very, very consistent. They got to prove it week in and week out, which they hadn't had to do yet. So they can become that consistent player and do the necessary things day by day throughout the week. They'll be just fine. They'll be damn good.
Let's talk about a couple other young guys, Caleb Benning, and then Donovan Jones. Is it? What would you say in your experience, Jay, is more difficult to get into, or more difficult to do? Be a young DB, adjust to being a young cornerback, or do you think it's a little bit more difficult to be thrown into the trenches on defense and kind of be told you got to sink or swim? What do you, in your experience, what do you think with you being a DN and then also seeing other young quarterbacks? What do you think is a more difficult thing to adjust in college football?
I think you see a lot where I've been. I think your younger players can get thrown into the secondary earlier in their careers and be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like being an O-line, D-line where they might not have the strength yet. The technique is very, very key. For really the secondary, for most part, the physicality might be a bit of an adjustment. But for the most part, it's just controlling your mind and just the nuances of coverages and the difficulties within that. So I think you see, Fabian Washington was in my recruiting class. He played as a true freshman. I think a lot of other players in the past, Ralph Brown, right, that get thrown in, and these are elite guys who then went to play in the NFL. I understand that,
Mm-hmm.
but you see more secondary guys play earlier in their careers than not. But if they're comfortable, you can kind of protect them a little bit as well with zone coverages. Even in man situations, like you can do some things with them to help them out. So Donovan played a ton in the pinstripe game, in the bowl game. I know Caleb is right there. First and foremost, those guys love to compete, so you're always going to have a chance when those guys want to win and compete their tails off. But you can throw those young corners and safeties in there, and they can adapt rather quickly because it's not as big a jump as, hey, you're a true freshman D lineman, go take on this 330-pound offensive guard and on a power scheme and get off a block and make a tackle. Vastly different comparing those two spots.
Sure.
Hey, we'll get chatter on this, and I appreciate you joining us for another fall because we need to talk some golf. Warm thoughts. Next Thursday, it's going to be 42 in Omaha. We might be out golfing. The top 100, according to Golf Digest, top 100 courses in the U.S. is out. Pine Valley in New Jersey is number one. Cypress Point, which is the Pebble Beach course. Shinnecock Hills, National Golf Links of America. There are 2 Nebraska courses on here. Sand Hills is 7th. Cap Rock is 46th out in Valentine. Have you played either one of them?
I have not played Cap Rock. I unfortunately had to turn down a couple trips just with just scheduling purposes and other golf stuff that I do. I've played Sand Hills. I've probably played it 4 or 5 times. It's fantastic. Nice. Awesome. There's nothing like it. And I've had the chance to play the number 1 on that list a couple times as well.
Ooh, okay. All right. Well, we will have to get out here in the spring now that you're back to full health.
Yes. Yeah. The hip's good. But yeah, the number 1 that you listed is it's the greatest course I've ever stepped foot on. And it deserves the number 1 list. But yeah, Sand Hills is great. Cap Rock will hopefully get up there, sometime this summer. But the state of Nebraska has great golf.
Yeah.
Awesome, very, very underrated golf. I'm lucky as a golf junkie that there's really about 12 fantastic golf courses around the state that we have access to, and I'm spoiled enough to know people that can give me access to them.
Yeah, I like how you put that.
From both of you. Listen, my golf clubs are coming in 2 weeks. They're getting shipped out here. I'm not that great of a golfer. I'm like a 90 to a 93, so I can't play with you guys. But I'm gonna need the rundown from both you and Gary. What are the courses that I need to check off the list in Omaha? Where are good places for me to start and whatnot? So I'm gonna need the list. You guys are veterans. So I need baby steps here because I can't. Yeah. I'm not ready to play Sandhills. So you gotta give me a couple of years before I do that.
Medieval putt.
We'll send you a list. Hey,
yeah. There's some good ones in the Eastern State, and even better ones out west too.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay, as always, I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Enjoyed it.
That is Jay Moore.